I am a mother, a wife, a elementary administrator, author, and blogger. But today, I am going to bring you all the way back to middle school. This is me. And I just want to point out, I am all good. Got everything figured out, right? Every shred of my energy is telling the world, I'm cool, I got it. Inside, of course, I was like a hamster wheel. I'm working through an ever-replacing, endless series of anxieties. It's that time of your life where you're gawky and you're awkward. You don't really know who you are. And the thing is, you feel like you're the only one that's so awful, right? And the irony is, we were all feeling that way. That's what middle school is. It's that time between, say, 12 and 14, when you're not a kid anymore, but you're so far from being a young adult that you're kind of like nowhere. And you don't really know what to do with that. So what we did is we hid. We folded ourselves up like a sad little greeting card and crawled in an envelope to hide and wait it out. We hid our worries, our fears, our deep loves, our changing bodies. When I started menstruating, true story, my mother thought that tampons would compromise my virginity and refused to buy them for me. So I spent 3 years pilfering quarters from underneath the couch cushions and buying them from the machine in the girls' locker room. And I hoarded them and I hid them just like we were all hiding something, the things we were scared of or embarrassed of. But the great thing is we all climbed out. I mean, look at us. We came out of those years and we kind of turned into relatively functional people. Some of us are even in charge of stuff even, right? I'm a school principal, so I'm in charge of a lot of stuff. But we're all in charge of stuff. And what I mean by leadership is the authority to make decisions. So parents are leaders, troop leaders, bosses, mentors. We're all leaders in some way. Okay, so what does middle school and leadership have to do with one another? Well, the thing is, there's a lot, it turns out, because in middle school, we had a lot of experiences that really shaped who we would become as adults. We learned about things to do and things not to do that make us better leaders. So interference, in the terms I'm going to use today, come from the psychology world, where interference, and specifically retroactive interference, is where you just can't keep track of all the stuff you've learned. You learn new stuff, you forget the old stuff, right? But today, we're going to knock that interference aside. We're going to go back to that age shown here in this picture and think about some of the behaviors that we first encountered during those years that may help us now that we're leaders, starting with how we choose our relationships. My best friend in middle school was Tara for about a minute. Tara was so popular, you guys. She was like the it girl. And junior high, a bunch of elementaries had come together, so we're trying to figure it all out, you know. And one morning in homeroom, Kim passed me a note. And it was written in this beautiful handwriting with these little hearts over every I. And it said, "Do you want to be my best friend?" And I was like, yes. So I wrote back, "Yes, I'll be your best friend." We smiled at each other. And I skipped off to science or language arts or something else, I don't know. And then I went into the cafeteria for lunch, and Shannon, who was an 8th grader, sat next to Tara, and she's like, "Hey, bestie." And I'm like, wait a minute. She's my best friend. And Shannon said, "Oh my God, you're so pathetic. She's my best friend. She just asked me right now in the hallway." And I looked at Tara, and she goes, "I like her better." So I went to the restroom, and I cried. And I'm like, what did I do so wrong? And how did I do it so wrong so quickly? I tried to figure out these new social rules. Then I wiped my tears, and I came out, and I spent the next year and a half trying to get Tara to write me that note again. I did everything I could to try and flatter her and be cool. But what I did was I wasted my time. Anytime we try and fit and flatter the needs of other people, we're just pretending. We're wasting our time, and we're getting ourselves kind of messed up in the head, and it's really tiring, actually. In adolescence, it's almost impossible to choose relationships wisely because we don't even know who we are, much less who we should connect with. But in leadership positions, we can't fall for the pretty, the witty, the most popular. We need to find the solid ones, the loyal ones, the ones who believe in what we're doing and will walk through a wall for us. Those are the relationships to build and foster. So the next behavior that we first encountered in middle school is accepting our weaknesses and learning to turn them into strengths. In middle school, we seem to be defined by our weaknesses. We all have them. It's kind of like they become our identities. My weaknesses in middle school, no surprise, I talked too much. I was also impulsive and I couldn't stand to wait for anything. And I was a relentless worrier. If there was something to worry about, I was like a dog with a leg wound. I kept at it and kept at it and kept at it, trying to wipe it clean. But I have worked really hard and really mindfully on how to change those weaknesses into strengths. I still talk too much, but if I'm careful with my words, I find that often my voice is heard. I'm impulsive and don't like to wait, but I've turned that into efficiency, and I rarely procrastinate. And about the worry, let's just say I'm ready for any situation's outcome when it comes. I've thought of it. Yep. So I'm rarely surprised or taken aback. The question for leaders is this. The weaknesses that we had when we were adolescents certainly follow us into adulthood and leadership. But if we work at it, those weaknesses can be turned into strengths, characteristics that people will want to follow when there's a decision to be made or when we need to offer guidance. Be trustworthy. Middle school, right? I'll give you a moment. When you walk down the hall and everybody says, oh my God, guess what I just heard? Don't tell anyone. But you get a nugget like that, it's Katie bar the door because you have a secret, so you have power, right? So you can offer these little half-truths, some little nuances, be the only guy in the room that really knows the story, and then bam, you can tell somebody or a whole bunch of someone's. You sit back and watch the shit hit the fan, right? Because you are powerful. You were the one with that secret. But now that we're grown up, we know that no, spreading secrets doesn't make us powerful and cool. It makes us untrustworthy. I was recently reminded of this when a friend of mine told me that he was ill and it didn't look good. Didn't have much longer. And I was despondent. But I was also really angry because I had learned that a mutual friend knew about this and hadn't said anything. So I cornered her. I said, why didn't you tell me our friend was so sick? She looked at me straight in the eye and she said, it wasn't my news to share. And I was like, wow, it wasn't. It was his news. It was his story to share when he was ready and how he was ready to do so. But you know, it goes the other way too. Sometimes as leaders, we are asked to tell other people's stories. In my job, every now and then, somebody on my staff will get sick or have a crisis and they need to go away for a while. They'll be tired, they'll be overwhelmed, and they'll say to me, can you tell the others? And then yes, of course, I'll say, sit down, let's talk about it. Let's talk about what exactly I should say so that we are open and honest and clear, but that you have the privacy and parameters you need. The bottom line, we may have crapped all over the stories of other people in middle school, leveraged secrets, gossiped. We can't do that when we're leaders. We need to honor the stories of other people and hold ourselves to a really high level of trust. The next one, stand up for the right thing. In middle school, it's so hard to stand up for the right thing. There's somebody bullying somebody else. We don't step in to stop it. There's a test we didn't study for, so we can find the smart kid, sit next to him to copy off of his paper, right? In 8th grade, Carl Bino stole chocolate chip cookies from the lunchroom every single day. And I joined a group of friends laughing about it every day, which only egged him on and rewarded him for being a dick, right? Now that we're leaders, we know that we have to choose the right thing or we reinforce the wrong thing. It's really that simple. And you know, it's not about the rules. It's not about what rules say or don't say. It's muddier than that. It's a gut check. It's a feeling. It's a knowing. It's putting yourselves in somebody else's shoes and taking a little bit of a walk. That's what doing the right thing is. I literally, when I'm faced with a challenge in which there's some right and some wrong range, I literally imagine a spectrum, and I look over to see what the right thing looks like, and then I just try like hell to get there. Okay, determine how others see you and if it matches who you are. This is a complicated one. Have you ever walked by a store and you look and you see somebody and then you're like, oh my God, that's me. And you're taken aback because there was a moment you didn't recognize yourself. What you saw was what everybody else sees. And you kind of need a moment to work through that, right? And that's intensified in middle school when you feel like you're in a crazy house of mirrors with the eyes of other people looking back at you, and reflections of yourself are bouncing back a little different each time. And you're like, is that me? Is that me? Oh God, is that me? You're just trying to figure out what these reflections say about yourself. When I was in 8th grade, I noticed all the badass girls wore one of those combs in the back pocket of their jeans, right? And I thought that looked like fun. So I went out and got me some combs at Nichols Drug Mart. And my dad said, you're not wearing those. You wear those, you're going to look like a hood, which really pissed me off because I wanted to be a hood. So I put a comb in my trapper keeper, and I got on the bus. I pulled it out and tucked it in the back pocket of my jeans. And my friend looked at me and raised her eyebrow and said, oh, you're going to do that now? And I was like, okay, it's not going to work. Because I realized I wasn't a badass. I wasn't a comb in the back pocket of my jeans kind of gal, and everybody would know it. This is complicated stuff, but it's real. There's truth in there, no? How we present ourselves and what people see as they look at us really does reflect who we are. So the trick is to audit ourselves. We can ask, okay, what are people seeing? And is that who I am? Is it who I want to be? And if it's not, what needs to change so that people see us as the kind, giving, caring people who want the best for the people that we're leading? Okay, and now the final and the most simple behavior that we first encountered in middle school. Set simple, clear, personal goals. When we were in middle school, we had one goal: get to high school, right? We all had that goal. We were firing back socially, emotionally, academically, athletically. We were doing our thing 1 week, 1 day at a time, trying to get to high school. My junior high, the math wing literally looked out across the parking lot at the high school. And I remember sitting there, looking out the window at high school. Just had to get there. So now that we're adults, we should remember the simplicity and drive of that goal. Even as we grow up and our goals gain more substance and breadth, they can be simple, because when they're simple and clear, it's difficult to lose focus. So we have to just decide what we want to be. We want to be a better parent, a better principal, a better leader, more well-read, healthier, more empathetic. Decide what that goal is and just focus on it with intention and clarity. So there you have it. Those are the 6 leadership behaviors that we first encountered when we were in middle school. Interference may have fogged them up a little bit, knocked them around, bruised them a bit, but we can pull those experiences back up and apply them to being a leader, and so that the people who are following us get the best of us. Thank you.